An excerpt from the chapter God's Breeding Plan from the book The Strongbred Dog, written and read by Jennifer Stoeckl. Many people scorn Lois and the breed for her belief that God can and does intervene in the work of breeding the American Alsatian dog. Some people ridicule or laugh, while others are simply appalled at this quote from Lois on her website. Quote, "I do keep as many females as I can to be sure you all have a pup, but sometimes God has other ideas." Or this quote, "Our dogs breed as God chooses." Perhaps they assume that Lois places all of the dogs into one pen and leaves them there to breed randomly, which is absolutely untrue. But the founder of this dog breed does believe in one all-knowing God, who plays an active role in deciding which puppies will be kept in the breed for future endeavors and which will not. This chapter will describe these beliefs and why they are fundamental to the work that certified breeders do within the DireWolf project. When breeding dogs, one often finds oneself poring over pedigrees, endlessly calculating inbreeding coefficients, comparing the traits of one to another, and diligently planning for future matches. Then there are the physical plans for how to house and care for the animals that are acquired. Many times one's plans are fulfilled without a hitch. However, there are also times when one's carefully laid plans fall through unexpectedly. Why do some plans happen to come to fruition and others not? Some would say that the fault lies with the person. Perhaps the one in charge did not plan as well as he or she could have. Perhaps a mistake was made in the calculations. Maybe there were fewer funds than anticipated. The excuses and finger-pointing can pour down like a heavy monsoon rain, but whatever the reasons one finds, the truth remains. Sometimes, despite one's mistakes, some plans are completed perfectly. And yet, even with the most carefully laid plans, some are washed away with the storm. If one takes on the belief that he or she alone has all the knowledge, wisdom, and capability to perfectly execute the tasks needed for procuring a well-run, successfully thriving breeding business, this person will be missing a fundamental element in their program: the unforeseen disaster. Times of trouble and woe will come unsuspectingly, gripping the very detailed planner like a vice. It is what happens in these moments of devastation that one must come to terms with a force in the universe that is greater than one's self. A whisper is heard, carried on a chilling breeze, that humans are the highest life form on our planet, and we alone have the introspection to plan and reason. There is no thing greater than the human mind. Brain Moskowitz from Scientific America in 1978 says, 10 linguists working full-time for 10 years could not program a computer with the ability for language acquired by the average child in the first 10 or 5 years of life. To be sure, the Linguistic Society of America in 2017 identifies that one of the most difficult aspects for computers in processing natural language is the problem of ambiguity. And it goes without saying that without the human mind to establish the computer, it never would exist in the first place. Yes, indeed, the human mind has brought cell phones, satellites in orbit, Martian landings, locating water on Mars, and piecing together our Earth's prehistoric past among so many other amazing accomplishments. Yet in all of our human wisdom, we have yet to be able to calm the storm, bring back the dead, or cure the common cold. Human beings are not all-knowing and all-powerful. We live in a finite world, in mortal bodies in which we know not the hour of our death. We make mistakes. We harm one another and ourselves. Some live in the harshest poverty, while others bask in the supposed glory of extreme wealth. Human beings have not mastered their fears or brought their fellow man to total enlightenment and peace. No one human community is without its faults. Humankind, in all its wisdom, knowledge, and power, has not eliminated poverty or eradicated injustice. Human perfection simply has not been reached, and likely may never be within our grasp. So what makes one imperfect, mistake-prone person believe that his or her intellect alone will be the answer to bring about better health and or longevity for his or her chosen dog breed? The truth is that it is extreme arrogance and folly to believe that one is the perfect, shining example of all of humankind who can break through the veil of others' mistaken tragedies to produce, from one's superior intellect alone, a healthier and longer-lived breed of dog. One may indeed produce many great dogs with perfect health, living lives longer than any other. However, not even the most knowledgeable and responsible dog breeder could ever surpass the superior health and longevity that is seen from wild wolves living in captivity, where nature's harsh elements have been eliminated. It has been experienced many times where wild-born wolves that have been captured and placed in artificial environments regularly live upwards of 17 years of age, according to PBS in 2012. In fact, according to the Texas Wolf Dog Project, the average lifespan of mid to high content wolf dogs is between 12 to 18 years old, depending largely on the dog breeds used in the mix. With this as the measure, how could the intellect of one human mind compare? Dogs are, after all, 98% genetically similar to wolves. If wolves can live this long with their large size and experience minimal health issues, should not all of our large breed dogs be as healthy and long-lived? But humankind did not breed the wolf, and we cannot claim the prize for the longest living canids on the planet. In many cases, our breeding interventions have given us much lower average lifespans with many more health issues. Take, for instance, the Irish Wolfhound. This extra-large breed regularly lives an unnaturally short life, only to die most readily from dilated cardiomyopathy between the ages of 4.95 to 8.75 years old. Think for a moment on the fact that in 2011, a research survey of 555 King Charles Spaniels reported by their owners as having no clinical signs of the disease found, using MRI scanning, that 25% of 1-year-olds and 70% of those 6 years old and older had developed syringomyelia, where the skull is too small for the brain. In affected dogs, fluid-filled cavities or syringes form within the spinal cord because of a discrepancy between the size and shape of the skull and brain. This condition, in which the back of the skull is less rounded and smaller than would be considered normal in a similar-sized dog, is called a Chiari-like malformation. As this dog's brain grows, the pressure on the inside of the skull is too great, and the dog suffers horribly before it passes on at an early death. There is no cure for this illness, because the issue is caused from the formation of the skull itself, which we know to have been altered to suit our human whims through artificial selection. Another shining example of human intervention gone awry is the English Bulldog. Its body has been so unnaturally changed that it can no longer breed on its own, and all English Bulldogs must now be artificially inseminated in order to produce offspring. Furthermore, they cannot give birth naturally and must have a C-section in order to birth their young. That is without even mentioning how the muzzle on the English Bulldog is so short that it oftentimes must undergo surgery in order to open the airways for it to breathe without difficulty. All of this unnecessary suffering is not the dog's fault, but the fault lies squarely with our own human interference in the ongoing lives of man's best friend. As Sean Ellis states so eloquently in his book, The Man Who Lives with Wolves, quote, "We have assumed the role of the dominant creature on this earth, and yet we have no idea how to manage the creatures under us. We don't know how to maintain the balance that regulates everything. which animals do naturally. Not every dog has serious health issues with which to contend. There are many that live full and happy lives, dying of the inevitable aging process, of which we all have to face someday. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the greatest reliable age recorded for a dog is 29 years and 5 months for an Australian cattle dog named Bluey. Bluey was obtained as a puppy in 1910 and worked among cattle and sheep in Australia for nearly 20 years before being put to sleep in the later half of 1939. In 2008, Dr. Kelly M. Cassidy compiled numerous longevity studies on dogs to acquire a list of the average lifespans by breed group. She compared vet school studies, breed club surveys, and data from 2 different kennel clubs, the American Kennel Club and the Kennel Club in the United Kingdom. Accounting for sample size and using standard deviation measurements, she found that the reported longevity in purebred dogs ranged from 6.9 years in the Mastiff group to 12.6 years in both the small companion dog group and the Northern Sledding dog group. In 2010, Dr. Vicki J. Adams, a Canadian veterinarian epidemiologist, published a report on dog longevity in the Journal of Small Animal Practice entitled Methods and Mortality Results of a Health Survey of Purebred Dogs in the UK. She found that the median life expectancy in dogs in the United Kingdom ranged from 3.83 in the Dog de Bordeaux to 14.83 in the Irish Setter. Lastly, in 2011, Vet Compass completed a surveillance report of the United Kingdom dogs, sifting through extensive veterinarian data, which also listed crossbred dogs. With a sample size of nearly 4 to 7 times that of purebred dogs, crossbred dogs' median age sits at 13.27, very near the longest living purebred dog breeds. We have taken a look at the longevity of the wild wolf in captivity, the wolf dog, the purebred dog, and the crossbred dog. But what about dogs that begin their lives as domesticated companions and over time revert back to a wild existence? How do they compare to their overall health and longevity? The Indian pariah dog is an indigenous landrace, meaning that it is a domesticated, locally adapted variety of dog. This particular type of dog is not believed to have been selectively bred, but domesticated itself through adaptation. This landrace's physical features, mental characteristics, and longevity are the sole result of natural selection. According to InDog, the pariah dog has evolved entirely through natural selection, without human interference of any kind. The result is a very hardy dog. InDog also cites the average life expectancy of the Indian pariah dog to be 15 years or more under good conditions. Another wild domesticated dog, the Australian dingo, most likely came with the ancient boats to Australia and then became wild, intermixing among themselves. As a result, pure dingoes now have a very similar look and temperament. Although longevity data for the dingo is rare, there was a significant study completed in 2016 in which scientists tagged and tracked 3 dingoes within the isolated dingo population on Fraser Island. This study suggests that dingo populations tend to attain average life expectancies of 13 years and are able to bear young for as long as 10 years. Other free-ranging dogs, such as the New Guinea singing dog and the Canaan dog, have similar longevity statistics, living an average of 13 to 15 years old. So if man cannot take the prize for breeding the healthiest and longest living canids, to whom or what should we give the prize? What force caused the circumstances to come together in such a way to produce these superior statistics in the wild wolf that rise far above our own human ones? Some would say that it is the element of nature itself that causes the events that procure superior health and longevity in the dog's wild cousin. So let us turn to science, that great observer of natural events, for some possible answers. Science reveals to us what is called the law of causality, or the law of cause and effect, which says that every material effect must have an adequate antecedent or simultaneous clause. In 1934, professor of philosophy at Princeton University W.T. Stays wrote, in a critical history of Greek philosophy concerning causality, quote, "Everything which has a beginning also has a cause." Because our planet had a beginning, nature on this planet also had a beginning. As there was a beginning, there must also have been a cause. So what caused the elements in nature to come about in just the right way to produce the perfect conditions in which wolves developed their superior health and longevity? Perhaps we can say that evolution caused the element of nature, which caused the wolves' superior health and longevity. But what caused evolution? Maybe the passage of earthly time itself caused evolution to occur, which then caused the element of nature to exist in just such a way which caused the wolves' superior health and longevity. But then what caused the passage of time to exist here on earth? Perhaps we can say that the earth revolving around the sun caused time to exist for our planet. But what caused the earth to revolve around the sun? Perhaps some scientists are correct, and the earth is a particle that spewed forth from the sun which just happened to have enough mass to be pulled into orbit at the exact location which was needed for life to thrive. But what caused the sun to spew forth particles? Perhaps the sun's own evolution caused the particles to spew forth. But then what caused the sun to come into existence and begin to evolve? Perhaps it came from the growing universe. So what caused the universe to grow? If multiple universes really do exist, perhaps our universe came from a series of other universes, all growing and dying in their time. But what caused these multi-universes to form? Perhaps the expansion from the Big Bang, where nothing suddenly became everything. So what caused something to come from nothing? Well, as we said above, something cannot come from nothing. If there was nothing, absolutely no thing, the cause of this something would have to itself not be caused. It could not have mass or be made of anything, but rather be a force that could act outside of time, because time is something. Be all-knowing, in order to be able to create something from nothing. All-powerful, to be able to force something to come from nothing. And eternal, to not exist at any time, would mean it would have had a cause. This force is what some call God. Lois is fond of saying, quote, "God wiggled his big toe and caused the Big Bang." Of course, God cannot have a literal big toe, but the point is clear. Lois believes that God caused the Big Bang, which in turn caused all the rest to occur. So if we reason through sound logic as our founder has, that God set everything in motion, which caused the perfect circumstances that came together in just such a way to produce the formula in which wild canids living in captivity remain healthier and longer lived than their domesticated cousins, we can legitimately surmise that God created a breeding plan for the wild canid, and consequently many other animals, which is beyond the scope of this chapter. God's breeding plan, as Lois describes it, can be scientifically studied by observation and the information gathered in detail. Below is a list of some of the areas about which we might study in order to come to a deeper understanding of just exactly what this plan or formula is that produces such great results for the wolf. Many of these areas have already been studied by prominent scientists, and so we can turn to their work to help us understand this plan that God so carefully engineered all those millennia ago when he wiggled his big toe and set everything in motion, which caused something to appear from nothing. As Sean Ellis wrote in 2009, quote, "We have so much to learn from animals. If only we would pay attention. They could teach us how to save the planet. We need to go back to being keepers of the wild and learn about their world and heal the wounds we have inflicted on nature. Everything has a place in this world, and we can't be naive enough to think we can safeguard ourselves if we let other species fail."